Thank you very much. Well, here we are again with 4 brave writers who volunteered to engage in competitive philology. Dilys Powell, Frank Muir, Gay Search, and Denis Norden. And we start with a round that rather fancifully could be called a garland of flowers. Frank, what horticultural abnormality was shared by a rose, a tigerlily, a larkspur, and several daisies?
Is it not that the Latin names, yes, that's it, the Latin names are all anagrams of the word myxomatosis?
2 marks to Frank. Well done. The answer I've got here is much less interesting, but they could all talk in Alice Through the Looking Glass. And I wouldn't know that because I only know it because it's written down here, because it's a book I could never get into. However, we've given you 2 plastic marks for an inventive answer. Gay, what line of poetry follows the following? And can you name the poet? They gathered some, the violet pallid blue, the little daisy that at evening closes, the virgin lily and the primrose true, with store of vermeil roses, to deck their bridegroom's posies against the bridal deal, which was not long, dee-dum, dum-dum-dum, dum-dee-dum-dum-dum. Could you fill in the
dum? That's the Serbo-Croat version.
Yes, if you could translate the Serbo-Croat line.
Roughly translated is, sweet Thames, run softly till I end my song.
2 marks. Actually, I've overspent myself. You should only have got 1 for that, but you can get a bonus mark now if you can tell me the name of the poet and the name of the poem.
Well, the poet is a relative of the Princess of Wales, somewhat older even than Barbara Cartland. It's Edmund Spenser.
Yes.
And the poem is Prothalamium.
Well done. Dilys, what flower of a never-green Filipino shrub was the personal symbol of a Dame Marguerite Gautier?
Gautier? Gautier. That's French.
Yes. Despite my pronunciation, you got it. It is French.
She was in a very popular novel, which has become a film and is always on somewhere, called La Dame aux Camellias. So it's Camellia or Camellia.
Bang on the button, 2 marks to Dilys. Denis, your question. A certain sporting grocer, looking out of the window, shouted, "Hurrah! Blister me kidneys, the dahlias are dead." Can you put a name to this non-gardening gentleman?
Well, there's only one sporting grocer that comes to mind, and I know him sort of at second hand. I can't say I've ever read very much of it, but somebody we used to work very closely with, Jimmy Edwards, used to read a lot of it, and that's Jorrocks.
Yes, it is indeed. Jorrocks, and the author
was Surtees.
Yes, indeed. Before we go on to our next round, here, Frank and Denis, are the phrases you were given for the last round. And Frank's was, "I Wonder Who's Kissing Her Now," a song title that I can remember in the Gaumont Doncaster. I can't remember who sang it. Denis, "It's a long lane that has no turning," which is an extremely aged proverb. But now we go on to a round of distinctions, one of these rounds that always sharpens the mind. Frank, instinct and intuition.
Oh, thank you.
I said it sharpened the mind.
I think instinct is what makes you act without thinking. and intuition makes you act without thinking. But if you say intuition is to do with the senses, isn't it? You say intuitively I sensed a man behind me, and instinctively I ducked.
I think you get the marks for that sentence.
So intuitively is a sense,
yes.
thing of the senses, and instinct is to do with action.
Yes, I will give you the marks for that. Instinct, I mean, we gross medical people regard instinct as a sort of fairly elementary, basic animal thing, whereas intuition is a much higher faculty. In a lecture that I give, I use a quotation from Addison because there's a hierarchical thing involved, and the quotation is, "Our superiors are guided by intuition and our inferiors by instinct." I think that's the real distinction. Gay, distinguish between meticulous and pernickety.
Well, that's the same sort of order, isn't it, really?
This round is all of this order.
Yes. It's sort of as in, I am big-boned, you are plump, he is grossly overweight.
Exactly.
Meticulous, I suppose, means taking infinite pains to get something right, and is rather a nice thing to be called. Pernickety is what other people are about work that you've done. Otherwise known as nitpicking, I think.
Yes. It's interesting that meticulous used to be more pejorative, and we've now... Fowler says British journalists are particularly fond of using the word meticulous, but applying it to other people. The difference between delusion and illusion.
I think illusion is more visual than delusion, and delusion is a more dangerous operation of the fantasy. I'm in
total agreement with you.
I might have a delusion that I was the Prime Minister, and I might then take a taxi to number 10 Downing Street and get taken up by the police. Whereas an illusion, I might have the illusion, which is visual, that I was living at number 10 and we ought to change the carpets.
You're getting very close, very close.
Are we?
A neat medical student distinction is always that it's an illusion to dream of castles in the air. It's a delusion to actually live in one. But illusion is something you create. Delusion is something that enters you and distorts your perception of the world.
Remember.
Dennis, now steady. The difference between sensual and sensuous.
And give example. Well, sensual has a touch of the wet red lips about it. Sensuous is rather more movement of the body or something like that. I think possibly, I think sensual is, we use it slightly as more of a reprimand than we use sensuous. It's possible to be sensuous and get away with it. Sensual is rather more noticeable. Sensuous is slightly...
Who was the sensuous?
I don't care how long I go on about this, because it puts me in a rather pleasant frame of mind, the whole topic.
Shall I give you a mark?
Do, yes. Tell me what you learned as a medical student, you liar.
Medical students were as confused over this as everybody else. It was Milton who sorted it out, apparently. But sensual is really...
Well, the disinfectant. Back to the hospital.
Sensual is defined as given to gratification of the appetites, which our word setter Peter Moore qualifies with special connotation of sexual allure, which is a phrase he constructed very carefully. Sensuous means pertaining to the senses as opposed to the intellect, and apparently Milton invented the word because he thought sensual had got a bit naughty. A mark to Dennis. And this is where we move into the confessional, because many of us who write get up to all sorts of tricks to see us through that dreadful moment when we have to sit down and actually do it. Disraeli would write only when in full evening dress. Agatha Christie apparently warmed up by eating apples in the bath. And Victor Hugo wrote in the nude. He handed his clothes to a servant so he couldn't go out until he'd finished his daily stint. So now we want each of you to tell us, how do you stimulate what some, who don't actually do it, would grandly call the creative impulse? Frank, how do you get going?
You've got a creative impulse. It's not like that, is it?
No.
At all. Not if you're a professional writer. It just isn't like that. It's like any kind of making things, like somebody makes something out of wood or stone. You're a workman trying terribly hard to be a craftsman. Getting going in the morning, the thing to do is to either dirty the page the night before, just a few words, or to think your first 6 words before you get up in the morning, so that you don't have an absolutely blank page. But it's nothing to do with creativity. I mean, it's
No, I agree.
just how to pick up the shovel.
Gay, what do you do to get going at that terrible time?
What actually gets me to my desk is usually the gas bill plopping through the door, or a letter from the bank manager saying, can we go back to the old arrangement whereby you bank with us and not the other way around? But then I find I go through this amazing ritual, which I'm sure you doctors call displacement behaviour. The paper has to be read from cover to cover. It becomes desperately important to know how much rain fell in Bridlington yesterday. The button box suddenly needs tidying. And then when you've done everything you can possibly do and there's simply no alternative except perhaps doing the washing up, then you actually sit down and you start.
Oh, I recognise that the emotion in those last lines, the last thing to do. Dilys, when you have to produce one of those reviews for Punch and the time is coming up, how do you get going?
There's no way. Doesn't exist. I mean, when I was a very young journalist, people would come up to one and say, how lovely to be able to sit down and write. And it's absolute hell sitting down to write. I mean, it's absolute torture. My husband used to say that if he met me in the street, he knew, because I was always going to buy a pound of tomatoes, that I couldn't think of anything to say. But buying a pound of tomatoes is really no good. There isn't any way. The only thing is to put something down, whether it's right or wrong. Put it down. And then sometimes, from somewhere, another word or 2 words, or perhaps even 3 words, which is marvellous, will come. But let's face it, it's absolute torture, and there is no way of doing it except doing it. Nothing else.
We could
Nothing else.
I always think it might help to go out and do something easier, like quarrying granite. But there's a great unanimity so far of despair. Dennis, are you going to break through it?
Because the blokes you quoted, Victor Hugo and those lads, had some kind of artistic pretensions, you see.
Well, he took his clothes off.
Yeah, well...
He was sensible.
Yeah. But there are all sorts of... We are not handmaidens of the arts, or I'm not. I'm more a daily woman, you see. The best advice I ever read was Ernest Hemingway's, is always finish a day on a line or a paragraph where you know where that's going to go next.
I knew this was going to be a sombre, painful round, and you've all had such painful experiences. We're going to dish out special marks, 100. Guilt-like aged marks to each of you. Well done. And we now move on to firmer, more familiar territory. Double definitions. I'm going to give you 2 definitions of the same word, and we want to know what the word is. Frank, first definition, patently obvious. Second, an inventory of cargo.
Manifest.
2 marks to Frank. You've been at the apples again. Gay.
To keep the doctor away.
Touche. Gay. First definition, to achieve agreement. Second definition, a high-backed bench.
Heavens.
Third definition, a railway line in the north of England.
Settle.
Settle, well done, 2 marks. Dilys, first definition, a sieve. Second definition, a conundrum.
Riddle.
Well done. 2 marks to Dilys and 2 marks to the lady in the second row. Denis, a sensual perception. Second definition, a Fleet Street shock.
They've all gone very quiet.
Third definition, a Fleet Street shock horror.
Sensation.
Well done. 2 marks to Denis. And now we come to the last round and Frank and Denis's quotation. And Frank's is, I wonder who's kissing her now.
I'm going to be terribly rich. And very, very soon, I probably won't do another of these programmes. I mean, it's really stinking, filthy rich. Because I've invented a Hollywood maxi series, a soap opera. The story is of a girl's lust to be famous, powerful and rich. Now, she starts off none of these things, just a simple girl. Her parents, Hank and Beulah Loof, and they have this daughter, which they christened Wanda. So her name is Wanda Loof. American bred, of course, and a beautiful girl, really beautiful. In order to fulfill her 3 ambitions, she goes to Hollywood, and she's working as a waitress, as they all do, and she's bending over while Howard Hughes, the famous producer, is eating his breakfast egg. And he suddenly looks up and knows that she's the one he wants for his big picture, The In-Law. It's a big cowboy picture about the hero and his mother-in-law, who's voluptuous. And he sees this Wanda, and he does a big poster of her lying in the hay. And she's very free with her favours. And he has a slogan there, Wanda, mean, moody, magnanimous. And he marries her, so he doesn't have to pay her a very high salary. And she becomes tremendously famous. Fame she's got. So she leaves him, divorces Wanda, and goes to Washington, where all the power is. And of course, she's now famous, she's beautiful, those long legs. She lies under a sun lamp all day, and she goes to Washington parties in the evening. She's always popping up, golden brown. She's the toast of Washington. And she is wooed and wed by Henry Kissinger. Yes, she is now a woman of great power, envied by those fighting oil men and their wives of Dallas and whatnot. And she's really powerful, but she's not rich yet. So she divorces Henry Kissinger, and with her 2 marriage settlements, she goes to Wall Street. This is very clever, and she marries Charles Dow. Now, Charles Dow is a very clever man who, with his friend Mr. Jones, invented and published the Wall Street Journal. And not only that, Mr. Dow and Mr. Jones wrote every day the Dow Jones Index of what shares are up to. So in a flash, he converted her 2 marriage settlements into millions, not millions, billions and trillions, zillions. She's not rich, she's very, 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 very rich. And that's where we find my heroine, this very, very, very rich woman. And she's sitting in a very expensive chair, Wanda, and she's cuddling her poodle, her white poodle, Alexis, which has £1 million worth of diamonds sewn into her coat, into the fur. Well, every Hollywood soap opera has got to have a rich bitch. Now, I was stuck for a title for my maxi series, and then I thought, surely it's her name. And it should be an egotistical sort of title, like I, Claudius. And I thought, yes, that's the title, because I heard an old song being played this morning, and coming to the studio, I thought, that's what I'll call my maxi series, because you know American women, when they get divorced, they take their ex-husband's name, and sort of names, for that matter, with a lot of them, and shove it in the middle of their present name. And that gives me the title of my soap opera. I Wanda Hughes Kissinger Dow.
Thanks very much. Could be a great series, that, Frank. Dennis, it's a long lane that has no turning.
Well, that phrase gives me another opportunity to report on the goings-on of some of our neighbours. Because the sad fact is that since the last time I brought you news about them, more and more of them seem to have split up. You remember, for example, the Hepplewhites. You must remember me talking about the Hepplewhites. He was the one who sent off for an inflatable au pair, and she was learning Swahili so as to be able to talk to her African violet. But they've had it. They were divorced in January. Apparently they wanted to divorce in November, but they'd already had their Christmas cards printed. Then Then there was George and Hilda Potter. I must have told you about George and Hilda Potter. He always used to wear a Kurt Vonnegut T-shirt, and she had this collection of erotic Tupperware. Well, it appears that at some time in August, George came home and announced that from now on he was insisting on separate beds, hers in Highgate and his in East Finchley. There just seemed to be no end to the whole thing. But the two who gave rise to most talk were the Snows, the couple who lived in a house called Kilimanjaro, because he, the husband, Fred Snow, he was actually very nice, a bit dull, perhaps, sort of faceless, suffered a bit from what that medical supplies chap at number 82 called anorexia of the charisma. But that wife of his, Frida, well, only one word for her: appalling woman. Really, I'm not just referring to her personal habits. No, I must say she used to cause a lot of comment at the local steakhouse with the way, when she'd finished her baked potato, she used to suck the silver foil. No, what I'm actually talking about is the way she'd constantly belittle and humiliate poor Mr. Snow, Fred Snow. But perhaps worst of all was her yucky habit around the house. Everything. When you consider what that man did for her, he gave her everything money could buy: a lovely home, underfloor heating, electric wok, needlepoint footstools, her own pasta maker, a musical toilet roll holder that played "I Did It My Way," and I mean, how did she repay him? That house, well, I mean, it's an open secret. I'm not revealing anything that I shouldn't. That looked like carnival night at the rubbish tip, honestly. The kitchen, it was such a mess. Sometimes you couldn't even locate the cutlery. It used to be agonizing to watch that poor man trying to eat cornflakes with a pair of pliers. But just the same, this happened so often. He wouldn't hear a word against her. He kept making excuses for her. He said, it's just the housework. It gets a little bit too much for her sometimes, he used to say, trying to make himself a cup of tea in the steam iron, So what was it that finally made him change his mind about her? Well, I'll tell you, it happened one Friday when he suddenly decided to leave the office early. So he got home unexpectedly at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, went upstairs, and to his horror found his wife in bed. Well, I mean, that's what he did. He found his wife in bed. Not with anybody, just in bed. Because, you see, it was then that everything suddenly became clear to him. What had been happening for the past 20 years was that instead of doing any housework, every day Mrs. Snow had simply been having a lay-in till about half an hour before he arrived home. Then she'd just get up, flick a dust around, and put a dab of furniture polish behind each ear so that when she greeted him, she'd smell tired. You know what I mean? So that then was the moment that finally opened Fred Snow's eyes. It was the revelation that Mrs. Snow had been in the habit of lying in bed all day that finally caused the worm to turn. Or, as his divorce solicitor put it in the court, it's her long lay-in that has Snow turning.
Thank you, Dennis. I hope you never move. Our giant electronic scoreboard tells us that our winners are Gay and Dennis. So let the welkin ring and joy be unconfined from wherever she's been incarcerated. Until we all meet again, goodbye. Thank you very much. Well, you are just in time to join our exploration of the mystical lands of syntax, grammar, poetry and rhetoric in the company, of course, of our intrepid explorers, Dilys Powell, Frank Muir, Antonia Fraser and Denis Norden. And our first round is a packet of all sorts, in that the questions have no unifying theme. Frank, why are the islands of Langerhans not shown on any conventional map or nautical chart? The islands of Langerhans, Langerhans.
Well, it's because that they are... If you look at them and start to draw them, they form such an obscene shape that cartographers can't bring themselves to draw them. And map makers won't print them. So you never see them.
No, I will mark there for trying. They are, in fact, medical. They are groups of cells in the pancreas, the ones that actually produce insulin, which I suppose is a mark to me. But anyway, good mark to Frank. Antonia, what is literally remarkable about the following verbal exchange? Do 9 men interpret? 9 men, I nod.
Oh, wait a minute. It's not a... Is it?
Yes, I think it is.
I think it could be.
Yes. 9 men, I nod. Sounds as if it's do 9 men. Sounds as if it's going backwards and forwards. Is palindromic?
It is palindromic. It is a palindrome. 2 marks to Antonia.
I had a good no, not palindrome, but during the week somebody said the word stifle is the only word that is an anagram of itself. you understand that, Frank? No, you're looking. Itself, you see.
That's very, very true. I was brooding on the fact that I've got a palindromic hat. It's a deer stalker. And you can wear it and reads both ways.
Yes. Dilys. When writing the name of the late American President, Harry S. Truman, why is it incorrect to put a full stop after the letter S that's in the middle?
Is it?
Yes. I didn't know until I read this script.
No. All the times I've written Tim, naturally, I always put a full stop.
Well, can you have a guess as to why it would be incorrect to put the full stop there? It's a quite extraordinary reason.
It must be his entire name.
It is. Your tall friend has got the marks for you. 2 marks.
Must be his...
Denis, can you account for the fact that quite excellent means better than excellent, whereas quite good means rather worse than good?
It's one of those sort of idiosyncratic locutions, as somebody said about English. It's full of them. There used to be a time when I used to try and collect them in the hope of collecting enough to make a my word story eventually. But there are things like, for example, in America, the word guy means a man, guys and dolls. But a wise man and a wise guy are quite different, aren't they? Or if you say she's good looking, as opposed to she's looking good, there's about 20 years difference.
I think that's
There's another the difference between a cowgirl and a girl cow.
or vision. If vision is the same as sight, whereas it's quite different to say she looks a vision as she looks. It's a locution, it's a way of talking. I mean, because you could make it quite excellent is, but you could also say it's quite good. Mm. In which case it's more than...
Or quite nice, which is nothing at all, really. Anyway, I think that your answer was quite good. And we'll give you 2 quite good marks. Now, before we go on to round 2, here, Frank and Denis, are the quotations you were given for the last round. Song titles this week. Frank, There's No Business Like Show Business. Denis, If They Asked Me, I Could Write a Book. Meanwhile, one of those rounds that always mean trouble for the chairman, distinguishing nuances of meaning between words. Frank, what's the distinction between authentic and genuine?
It's so close. Genuine means real, doesn't it? Unfaked. Sincere. Authentic, I would have thought, means that it's all it purports to be, which can be backed by facts. So you could authenticate that this vase is genuine.
2 marks.
Does that help?
2 marks. 2 marks, yes. But what our word setter, Peter Moore, has down here is authentic implies that the subject matter corresponds to fact and is not fictitious, and genuine that the subject matter is the produce of its stated originator. And that's virtually what you said. Antonia, the difference between revenge and vengeance.
Well, if it wasn't for the fact you were asking me, I'd say there was no difference at all.
You would. I looked up Fowler, and he says there is a distinction by no means universally observed. So you won't lose marks on this.
Well, revenge, do you try to do to the other person what they did to you because of the read?
Yeah, that's vengeance, apparently, but it is a distinction, and it'll get you 2 marks.
I'm fascinated. Yeah. There is a distinction.
Well, it is. I mean, as I quoted what Fowler said, the distinction that has been drawn in 2 ways. That revenge tends to be for the sake of personal satisfaction, and vengeance is retaliatory action to even up an injury or redress an injustice. But it's vengeance usually involves making people suffer the same punishment as the offence that they
Eye for
earn a vengeance for.
Eye for an eye.
Yeah. Dilys, the difference between to convince and to persuade.
Well, persuade can be unsuccessful. Whereas convince, I mean, if you convince somebody, that's they've had it.
2 perfect marks. Actually, I think it earns a bonus mark because it's much better than the distinction that's written down here in front of me. Because I've got 2 distinctions down here. Peter Moore says convince to influence somebody as to his beliefs, persuade to influence somebody as to his actions. I put down that I thought that persuade involved a change and convince could be a reinforcement of somebody who's half there. But your answer has won you that bonus mark. Very well done. Denis, distinguish between further and farther, but farther with an R in it. Further and farther.
Oh, I spent my whole life not knowing that. They used to say, in the buses, they say, pass farther down the car, please, which was a great opening line for us. You know. It's not father, it's my uncle, you know, all that sort of thing. But they never say, pass further down the car. So I think farther is to do with distance, whereas further just means additional. This means more. I could go further, but
Let's
I
say
won't go any farther. Yes.
Go no farther. You've got it. 2 marks to go. Again, Fowler actually uses 1 column to draw no distinction between them at all. But he says that some suggest that further the distance involved is figurative, whereas farther it's literal. Well, let us move on to, not all that much firmer ground, I'm afraid. Eyewitness accounts. First, we have marks up for grabs here. See if any of you can correctly identify the event of historical significance which an eyewitness reported in the following words. And it's a translation. The best description I can give would be that in shape and appearance it seemed very like a pine tree, for the cloud surged up into the sky like a tall tree trunk and then split into branches.
Vesuvius.
1 mark to Antonia Vesuvius. Well done. The eruption of Vesuvius. Pliny the Younger. Now, those were the marks for grabs. Now the actual marks for this round go for what event of equal historical note would you most like to have witnessed and why? Frank.
I think I'd rather like to have been alive at the time of the Old Testament, Genesis, when the cities of the plains were destroyed, just to find out what they did in Gomorrah.
Antonio, what would you like to have eyewitnessed?
Well, I noticed Frank's turned to a pillar of salt, which is why you won't be hearing much more from me. Well, I think also the Bible is irresistible. I would very much like to have been present at the parting of the Red Sea, because for 2 reasons. I'm extremely fond of tourism, so if it did part, one would be able to walk freely with no bother about passports and all of that. But if it didn't part, I'm also fond of swimming, so one would have a very nice splash. So that's what I think I'd go for.
Very nice. Dilys, what would you like to have witnessed?
Well, I should like to have been there when Livingstone was encountered, and he was asked. Well, he wasn't asked. Dr. Livingstone, I presume. I've always wondered whether he then said, "Did you have a good journey?" Or what he say? You know, what do you say?
Yes, I would like to have been there as well. Well done, Dirk. Denis, what would you like to have seen?
It's difficult, this question, because it presumes that you would have recognised the fact as having the importance that we now see that it has. I'm sure wherever I would have been, I would not have known, I would not have realised, A, what was going on, and B, that it was going to be a hinge of history or something. I mean, I went on D-Day, I was in France. I had no idea that it was really going to make a difference or anything like that. I looked upon it, I was due for leave, and it was an unwarrantable intrusion on my, and so if anything, I would have liked to have seen, if I would only be there to see if I could have appreciated it. And I would take the first night of Private Lives, which I think is the most perfect light comedy of the 20th century. And I would like to see if I'd have appreciated it then, or, would have seen somebody say, "Where'd you go into this new program?" And it was all right,
Let's give them all 100 marks each from... Now back to our muttons, something simple like trinomials. 3-word groups such as ragtag and bobtail, or what we doctors have one, flatulent, fair and 40. Those are people who get gallstones. What such trinomial can be defined as follows. Frank, all the bits and pieces, we want a boom, 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 boom. 3 words. Boom.
Lock, stock and barrel.
2 marks to Frank. Antonia, excommunicatory impedimenta. Ding.
Oh, bell, book and candle.
2 marks to Antonia. Dilys, descriptive of, say, Gregory Peck or Cary Grant in their prime.
Both of them?
Yes, both of them were this... Yeah. They could have been described as not the long, the short, and the tall.
I was going to say hip, handsome, and heroic.
I would stick with the handsome and start with the tall, and you've only got to get something dark in the middle.
Tall, dark, and handsome.
Well done!
Oh, yeah.
Denis, temperamentally temperate.
Temperate. Cool, calm and collected.
Well done, too. And now we come to Frank and Denis's quotations, if I can find them. Yes, Frank, there's no business like show business.
Denis and I always had a secret hope that someday a My Word story would land on our laps, that it would just turn up fully armed, ready for us, the line, the twist. And I was sort of laying myself open for this, and I almost got one when the compiler of this programme, Peter Moore, was telling me the sad story of his uncle. Apparently his uncle was a very bright man, rather a philosopher, who coined aphorisms. And I thought, that's me. And he said that his uncle, St. John, when a child at breakfast suddenly said, "Do you know that life is like a pair of trousers?" And his mother said, "Don't talk while you're eating, get on with your breakfast." So he was never able to explain why life was like a pair of trousers. But he grew up, and then he met an awfully nice young girl, and they were sitting on the sofa, and he said, through the silence, "You know, my dear, have you thought that life is like a pair of trousers?" And there was a pause. And he said, "Aren't you going to ask me why life is like a pair of trousers?" And he said, "If all you can think of is smutty jokes, then I want nothing to do with you anymore." So he was never able to tell her. When he was aging and fading rapidly, the family were gathered round his bedside, and he was fading and fading, and eventually he said, "There's just one thing I'd like to tell you all, my children. One bit of wisdom to pass on. That is, life is like a pair of trousers." And they said, the nurse said, "Don't try to talk." And she shoved the thermometer in his mouth and he died. So it's obviously you can't rely, if you're looking for my word story, on either Peter Moore's relatives or indeed on famous last words. And then there was a neighbour of mine I suddenly realised I had high hopes of, Albert, neighbour of mine in Thorpe. And he's very good with words. He got them all wrong when he was very tiny. And he said, for instance, when he was about 5 and I appeared early in the morning and dishevelled, "You look a bit bedraggled." Much better, isn't it, than the real pronunciation? But it's only a mispronunciation, you see. And then he referred to that white peppery stuff you put on roast beef as horse rubbish. Which again is better. And he referred to waterproofs as Meckinsops, which again is better. And I thought, now, if I watch Albert, I'm going to get my word story out of him. And so the years went by, and only recently he started getting morose. And I said, "What's the matter?" He said, "Oh, it's just the parents, just boss me around all the time." He said, they tell me what I've got to wear, what I've got to eat and everything, and it's not on at all. And then he seemed to be a bit brighter and said, "Oh, the parents are getting a bit better now." He said, "They let me grow my hair a bit longer." And then I saw him this morning, and I had this sort of crinkly feeling at the back of the neck that I was going to get my word story out of him. And he was looking very disconsolate, and I said, "What's the matter?" And he was wearing a pair of brand new, those old-fashioned leather sandals. And I said, "What's the matter with you?" He said, "Got new shoes." So I said, "They look very nice." I said, "They're not nice at all." He said, what I wanted was trainers. I said, "I wanted joggers' shoes, white with blue all over the sides and holes in them, yellow soles." And my parents knew I wanted them, and they made me have these old-fashioned leather sandals. He said, "So awful." He said, "Just when I thought they were getting better and stopping bossing me around, they've changed again." And then I knew the line was coming. He said, "Just when I thought everything was going fine, suddenly there's new bossiness, like shoe bossiness."
That one sneaked through on the rails. Denis, if they asked me, I could write a book.
If any of you have ever been in my bathroom during the past 10 years or so, it could well have been. We've had all manner of people passing through there, but something you wouldn't fail to have noticed is that high up on the inside of the bathroom door is a large penciled dot, and beside it the words "Site for proposed clothes hook." Now, that inscription stands as a memorial to a certain threatened species of which I count myself a leading member, the section of the population who are not handy about the house, the legion of the cack-handed, those who can't do it themselves. We're fairly easy to recognise, quite apart from our lesser exhibitions of helplessness, like invariably screwing lids in the opposite direction to the arrow, or being forced to use the car jack as a temporary coffee table leg, or having to look up the instructions before we can use the kitchen pedal bin. We're the group for whom the 3 most terrifying words in the English language are easy to assemble. As just one example of that, my son is still waiting for an unfinished toy I bought him when he was 7. He's now got 2 children of his own. and I still haven't been able to locate slot B. And over the years, the outcome of all this incompetence has been a series of calamities, besides which Fox's Book of Martyrs looks like a lap of honour. My attempt at installing a new thermostat for the central heating, for example, that resulted in temperature levels that were either so tropical that the wax fruit started bubbling, or so arctic the cat was going round in leg warmers. And as for the time I tried my hand at rewiring the house's electrical system, that produced a position where pushing a piece of bread down into the toaster somehow started the fridge defrosting. But while the year I thought I should try and repaint the exterior of the house myself, the council took one look at the results and reduced my rates by 32%. But what put the final kibosh on my well-intentioned efforts in the home improvement line was, as I've indicated, what happened when I set about trying to renovate our bathroom. The first task was obviously to ensure a more reliable hot water supply, an operation which I like to think of as working for change within the system. The results weren't wholly what I'd been hoping for. In fact, I don't remember taking so many cold baths since I started going out with girls. The shower was slightly more satisfactory because at least we could still get hot water out of it. Mind you, the fact that it had a habit of suddenly going ice cold without any warning, that meant whenever I was singing in there, I found myself hitting some quite unpremeditated high notes. The clincher, though, was when I decided to make wash day worries easier by installing one of those over-the-bath clothes dryers. Do you know the sort I mean? They're on a pulley, and you hang the wet washing on them, then haul them up to the ceiling so that they drip into the bath. I don't know. I suppose I must somehow have positioned it wrongly, because what happened was, well, it was like trying to go to the loo in a tropical rainforest. And it's hard to explain, but both family and visitors got more and more stroppy about sitting there holding an umbrella. So it was at that point that they prevailed on me to call a halt. They wouldn't even allow me to complete the work on that clothes hook that I mentioned in that penciled inscription I told you about earlier, which is why whenever I see one of those women's magazine questionnaires that ask, how much do you do personally in the way of maintaining your home, my answer is always along the lines of that lovely Rodgers and Hart song. If they asked me, I could cite a hook.
Thank you, Dennis. Well, while you were speaking up on behalf of the unhandy, our computer-controlled pencil has added up the score on the back of our computer-controlled envelope, and I now declare that our winners are Dilys and Frank. So, while our audience carries them in triumph around the studio, Antonia, Dennis and I will slink quietly away until we all meet again. Goodbye.
My word.
A panel game devised by Tony Shrine and Edward J. Mason. And here to introduce the teams is Michael O'Donnell.
Thank you, and welcome to another untrivial pursuit through the byways of our language, led by those relentless seekers after meaning, Dilys Powell, Frank Muir, Antonia Fraser, and Denis Norden. And we start by trying to hunt down the common denominator. Frank, what do the following have in common? To gromp, to boondock, all one word, a squidger, and a squopping.
Squidger and a
squopping.
I know boondock, but boondock's an American word, and it's for the a tract of land which is totally useless, miles from anywhere. Well, this is sent to the boondocks.
This is turned into a verb, and they're all...
This is a game?
It's a game.
There are 4 words used as a question on my word.
1 mark.
I'll settle for that. Thank you.
1 mark to Frank.
I'm happy.
For an ingenious answer. We can't deny the truth of that answer, so we give him a mark. The answer we were after, they're all terms used in the game of tiddlywinks. Antonia, what do these 3 people have in common? Herr Johann G. Zinn, Z-I-N-N, Monsieur Michel Bigon, B-E-G-O-N, and Mr. Alexander Garden. And Garden, in a punning way, leads you up the right path.
Ah, then I've got it. Thank you very much. Garden, gardenia, begon, begonia, and zinnia.
2 marks to Antonia. Dilys. What do these names have in common? Gilbert, Richard, Edmund, Margaret, Joan, and Anne. All first names, but that's not what we're after.
Well, no. They begin rather long and end rather short.
That doesn't help.
Doesn't help.
You don't know who their brother was? Anybody know who their brother was?
Their brother?
He used to hold horses for a time outside.
Shakespeare?
Yes.
Ah.
Well done, Dilys. And now for a question that has Norden written all over it. Norden spelt difficult. What do the following have in common? Clinkers, conkerbells, daglets, spigots, and tankles. And if you said them all together, it would be sort of an onomatopoeic clue.
Clinker, conkerbell, daglet, spigot, tankle.
Well, not in a deep voice. I think you'd have to say...
Clinker, conkerbell, daglet.
That's it.
Tankle. It's you know those wind chimes that people hang up outside a door? They're all the different notes. One goes clinker, one goes conkerbell, one goes daglet, spigot. Yeah, no? Or it could... except they're rather nasty words. Clinker and conkerbell. Is it for a musician's names for different forms of sour notes, as it were?
No.
He hit a clinker. He hit a real conkerbell there. Marble suggests.
No. I think in your inventive mood, you'd already clocked up 1.5 as good answers. I mean, the chiming door...
inventive moods in 1957. No, when was it?
The door chimes I rather liked. But in fact, it's one of these, you either know it. As I said, it had Norden written all over it.
The bit you were going on to after you either know it is the bit which could describe my
Well, believe
plight.
it or not, they are regional names for icicles.
Really?
That created a fever of intense apathy in the audience. Anyway, we're given Denis 1.5 for invention, so well done.
I think there was a kind of murmur of horror from the audience.
Well, before we go on to round 2, here, Frank and Denis, are the quotations you were given for the last round. Frank, Treasure Island, novel by Robert Louis Stevenson. Denis, Never give a sucker an even break. title of a W.C. Fields film. And meanwhile, we'll go in search of origins and derivations. Frank, what's the origin of the phrase, to steal one's thunder?
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I researched this for a book I was writing about 8 years ago. There was a critic at the beginning of the 18th century called John Denis, and he was also a very bad playwright, an irascible critic and a very bad playwright. And for a play of his called Appius and Virginia, he didn't invent stage thunder, but he invented an improvement on it, which consisted of a wooden trough with pegs in it. I don't know how it worked. But his rotten play, Appius and Virginia, lasted no time at all, was immediately flung off and replaced by a performance of Macbeth. And John Dennis went to this, and when the thunder thundered, he recognized it as from his improved trough. So he rose in his seat and said, "My God, that is my thunder. They play my thunder, but they don't play my plays."
Perfect answer. Well done, Frank. You did every detail that I'd written down as potential clues. Antonia, origin of a hooligan.
Well, if it doesn't sound terrible to say so, I feel it might be Irish in some way.
It might well be Irish, yes.
Saving your presence, Michael.
But not necessarily homegrown Irish.
No, certainly not. I wasn't suggesting that for a moment. These people far from their native land, I'm afraid, used to forget themselves and forget the high standards of their native country and behave in a most reprehensible manner.
The whole family did, didn't it?
Yes.
Well, we'll give you 2 marks before you try too hard to influence me. 2 marks for Antonia. Actually, this is where I discovered that Ernest Weekly comes in, because in the Romance of Words he refers to the hooligans. They were a family in Southwark, but Ernest Weekly pointed out that the word hooligan, referring to that sort of person, was younger than an Australian larrikin and older than the French apache. Anyway, they did the same sort of thing, but they didn't have football matches in those days. Dilys, origin of lackadaisical.
I can think only of one of the Gilbert and Sullivan operas, in which one of the characters keeps on saying "lack-a-day." Does that help? Is that
that helps? If you give that as the answer, and you get 2 marks. Well done.
That's my answer. Yes, that's my answer.
Yes.
I wish my lawn was.
What, lack-a-day?
Lackadaisical.
Wait, yes. Denis. Origin of the colloquial valediction toodaloo.
It's a colloquial valediction. I think I know this. I remember that, which I think was too late for the derivation, was Harry Tate used to do a sketch on a railway booking office where the 2 other company were going to Cornwall, and they used to say to the ticket clerk, "Tootaloo," and he'd say, "Tootaloo." But I believe it probably predates that. I was always taught that it was French. It was toutaleur, which is the way the French say toodaloo. Or maybe the French say toutaleur because we said toodaloo because of Harry Tate.
Oh, well, 2 marks for people. I could find no reference to this at all, but Peter Moore digs these origins out, always to the delight of our audience. He suggests either a toutaleur, or also he said that it could be a jocular imitation of a motor horn, which I suppose comes near to Harry Tate.
Yes.
Goodbye!
Now we move on to eponymities. As we all know, a sandwich is named after Lord Sandwich, who liked to snack at the card table. Mackintosh, after Mr. Mackintosh, who was allergic to getting wet. A silhouette, after Monsieur Silhouette, who rather fancied himself in profile. Doctors rather like to be called after a disease or an operation. I had to make do with a perfume, Eau de Nil. However, what artefact would you like to be named after you, preserving your name for posterity? Frank, I think you better be a Muir, because a Frank is already bespoken.
I think I would like a sort of perpetual bow tie, which didn't need dabbing with a proprietary form of cleaner after one's tied it with fingers that was just used to clean the car engine. And if one had one that just stayed pristine, it would be a Muir.
I think you have a good chance of making that. It would be pink and pristine. Yes, a Muir. Well done. I think that's a very good effort. Antonia, what eponymous thing would you like to have?
Well, I think I'd like to run my two names together, and it would be an Antonia Fraser. I think that sounds better. And I think I would like a very free-flowering, but, and this is the point, self-pruning rose. No sooner did it get to a certain point that it would stop and go off in another direction.
Oh, I think that's a superb idea.
And it would automatically behead itself after flowering.
Oh, yes, it would be tremendous.
It would live for, your name would live forever.
And be blessed, I think.
And be blessed by gardeners. Dilys, what sort of eponym would you go for?
Well, I think I would like to be remembered for a dog, something or other, which would encourage a dog to ask to go out, but he should be encouraged to go out for really necessary needs and not that bit of beautiful, stinking, awful bone which he remembers.
That sounds as though it comes out of painful experience. Well done, Dilys. Now, Denis, what are we going to have? A Denis or a Norden or a Denis Norden?
No, I was thinking there's nothing of any distinction about anything I actually do or possess. The only eccentricity which my attention has been drawn to seems to be that I cannot pass an elastic band. And I always have one, for the benefit of listeners, on my wrist. That was on my left wrist. It's always on my left wrist. And about once a year, it comes in so handy. But the strange part about it is I forget it's there. And sometimes when you do a television program, you get letters from viewers who say, why do you wear an elastic band round your wrist? And I'm always tempted to write back and say, where would you like me to wear it?
I think that could be a Norden. Well done. Now we move on to a round of those sort of rhyming, chiming words, such as hurdy-gurdy and dilly-dally. We want those sort of words. I'll give you a definition and see if you can find the words. Frank, in jumbled confusion.
Arsey-tarsey.
That's always your first go on this round. We haven't got it in this time.
Higgledy-piggledy.
Higgledy-piggledy. Well done, Frank. Antonia, an ill-tempered disagreement. An Argentinian barge owner might get you there.
No.
Hanky-panky. Well, when you said Argentinian barge owner, I thought of hanky-panky immediately.
That's very good.
Well, I suppose argy-bargy, but that's more obvious.
Yes, argy-bargy would win you the marks. Anyway, well done. Dilys, suspiciously underhand behaviour. Just blow your nose and you're halfway there.
Beg your pardon?
Just if you blow your nose, you're halfway there.
Nosy Park, sorry.
No, think...
Nosy Park is all I can think of.
Suspiciously... People get up to a bit of this suspiciously.
Hanky is the first half.
Hanky Panky.
Well done, Dilys. Denis, in appearance, it says on the script actually, Denis, in appearance, lovably rotund. And I don't think that's accurate, but the word...
Lovably rotund.
In appearance, lovably rotund is the definition.
Can you give me a clue? Up to the standard of Argentinian barge owner.
Well, it's also a traditional British pudding.
Ah, yes, thank you. There's mutterings in the audience. And also a certain amount of sort of lip smacking as well, wasn't it? Roly-poly.
Well done, 2 up. Though Frank did come in with a quiet alternative there.
Oh, Spotty Dicky.
Yes, which I thought was worthy of a bonus mark.
Medical term.
Anyway, now we come to Frank's and Denis's quotations, and Frank's is Treasure Island, title of a novel by Robert Louis Stevenson.
I'd like to tell you, if I may be permitted, the plot of my new novel, because I'm going into a new field now in an endeavour to make a lot of money, and it's a romantic thriller, an exciting romantic thing. So I'm giving it a pseudonym, of course, a girl's pseudonym, because women write those things much better. And I thought of a good name, really, Roberta Louisa Stevenson. It's a totally original plot, which is the most exciting thing. And the heroine is Pat Hawkins. And Pat Hawkins lives in the West Coast in an old pub in a fishing village, which had been taken over by her father. Her father's Bimbo Hawkins, who's an old Etonian layabout, who's transformed this into a wine bar, which is called the Admirable Bimbo. And Pat Hawkins, oh, Daddy, her ambition is to get married so that she can change her name because she thinks the name Hawkins is common. Can't we put a hyphen in it, Daddy? And the only really good customer they've got is an old sailor called Billy Bones, who was a round-the-world solo yachtsman and whatnot. And he rather fancied Pat Hawkins, and told her that when he got lost on one of his which he did frequently, on his round-the-world things, he happened upon this island, you see, miles from anywhere. And he gave her a map with the latitude and longitude and said it would make a marvellous tax-free haven. So she persuades a couple of local businessmen who are in trouble with the VAT to go and look for the island and open it up. So they put their money together and buy this boat, the Eola. It was the Eola, is meant for the America's Cup, but it was obsolete before it was launched, and was called the Has-Been Eola. So they sailed away on the Has-Been Eola, stopping only at Portsmouth to pick up a ship's cook. It was a girl who did a cordon bleu course and director's lunches. She'd been working in Paris and was out of a job. She cooked for the director's box at the Longchamp racecourse, and they called her Longchamp Sylvia. So they picked up Longchamp Sylvia as the cook, and they sailed and found this island and found it was already occupied. It had been taken over and was full of high-rise hotels catering to the American trade. Well, of course, Patricia was desolate because it was her chance of changing her surname, until this nice chap, Benny Gunn, who had the toasted cheeseburger concession for the Americans. And he said, he's the lad. If you could marry him, you'd be rich. Rollo Ryland, socialite, asset stripper, multi-millionaire, hooray Henry. He said, he's sunbathing now on the north coast of the island. Only about an hour. You get there, find 3 pine trees in a row, move to the right 6 paces. There you'll find riches. So she changed into her smallest bikini, the equivalent of 3 corn plasters, and went there, and sure enough, there on the spot that Benny Gunn had said, she saw a chest. Bronzed, hairy, and at the top of it was the face of Rollo Ryland. Hello, he said when he saw her. Gosh, you're pretty for a girl. Who are you? And she said, well, my friends call me Tricia. My surname's Hawkins, but I'm hoping to change all that very soon. And she was absolutely right. They were married a fortnight later, St. George's, Hanover Square, honeymoon on his private Concorde. Good story, isn't it? What? And I thought I'd call her. I called the book, my blockbuster, after her married name, which was known to millions of readers of the gossip columns. I just call it simply Tricia Ryland.
Dallas, look to your laurels. Denis, let's see how you get on with Never Give a Sucker an Even Break.
Well, it was strange that we should have that round this week about that Michael called rhyming chiming, you know, the roly-poly round that you won. Because what I was intending to tell you about was a strange sort of obsession that I've had for a long time with what you might call apposite opposites, or opposite apposites, but opposites. You know what I mean? It's sort of toying with the reverse side of familiar ideas or phrases. For example, I'm always hoping to see a newspaper story about two Hollywood stars who admit they're having a passionate love affair, but emphatically deny they're good friends. or that someday I'll pick up a paper and read about an eccentric old tramp who turns out to have a mattress hidden under a pile of money. You see, now, on the same principle, I'm still hoping to discover a tobacconist who's got a notice up saying, thank you for not smoking. Or that one day I'll turn on the television and see a large woman comedian telling son-in-law jokes. You get the idea now, because once you get started on it, on this habit of reversing the natural order of things, there's really no end to it. The fact is, you see, that once your mind gets into that man bites dog approach, there's really no telling where it goes. In my case, the speculations have ranged from a flasher who only frequents nude beaches. He goes up to unaccompanied women and closes his raincoat. You know, I've gone from that to the even more ornate notion of a light bulb manufacturer who offers the National Theatre a lifetime supply of his wares on condition they're always used in the sign that gives the names of the cast. The reason being, you see, that all his life he's wanted to see his lights up in names. So I was sailing along quite contentedly on that tack till I was halted by a problem that I can only describe as iatrogenic. A word that caused silence, actually. And I used not merely because I only came across it myself last week, but because it means induced or brought on by a physician. In this case, the one who calls himself Michael O'Donnell. You see, ever since he joined the programme, I've been diffident about applying that opposites technique to any medical subject for fear of provoking that look that all doctors get when you start on their subject, you know, sort of amused forbearance, which is why I've never actually asked him how it is that you never hear of anybody going into hospital for an operation and simplifications setting in. You know, but last week, in that same article where I picked up that word iatrogenic, I also learnt that in olden times, what doctors prescribed for more or less every ailment was leeches. Now, by leeches, I don't mean those little fruits that you get in Chinese restaurants for afters. I'm talking about those horrible worm-like things that Humphrey Bogart discovered sucking on his extremities in The African Queen. See, because although, according to that article, doctors in those days prescribed leeches for practically every physical affliction outside of dandruff, the one generally agreed exception was in the case of a certain kind of fracture. Specifically, the article said, any uncomplicated fracture with no displacement. Know what I mean, Michael? Yes. Right. Well, the moment I read that, my old rule of reversal came back into play, because if that was the only medical condition for which they didn't prescribe leeches, then surely those doctors had come up with the opposite of a well-known W.C. Fields film. In other words, never give an even break a sucker.
Thank you, Dennis. While you were at the opposite, someone nipped out and added up the score on the canteen cash register. And our winners, exclusive of VAT, are Antonia and Denis. So, it's another netful of chocolate gold coins for each of them, while poor Dilys and Frank have to make do with the simulated silver. Until we all meet again, goodbye.
In My Word, Michael O'Donnell was in the chair. The questions were compiled by Peter Moore, and the programme was produced for the BBC by Tony Shrine and Pete Atkin. You've been listening to My Word from the BBC.